Hey guys.
Hi, Jimmy.
Luke didn't know about the Wampas on Hoth. Yeti found out fast.
Oh, happy May the 4th, everybody. Happy May the 4th.
Hello, explorers, and welcome to the only international Star Wars podcast covering half the world, but only 0.5% of the galaxy. I'm Jack, and as always, thank you for joining us wherever you are in the Star Wars universe.
Yes, welcome to Explore the Force, where we cover all things Star Wars. I'm Jimmy the Jedi, and as always, welcome back or welcome along if you are new.
And last but by no means least, I'm Charlie. And if you're joining us today for episode 155, and if you get a chance, don't forget to give us a cheeky rating, a like, a share, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Jack, how are you doing, my guy?
Yes, I'm good. Obviously, this episode will be out on the 5th, so happy May the 4th for yesterday. However, be aware, revenge of the 5th. But I'm doing okay. Jimmy, how you been?
Good. Again, school, last 2 weeks of real stuff, so a lot going on. Got a lot going on this weekend. 2 episodes recorded. Going to do live trivia here in a little bit after this. So by Tuesday, I should be calmed down. Actually, no, we have the live show Tuesday night. So yeah, so Monday will be hectic because we'll have them all, and then Tuesday we'll have the live show. So maybe by Wednesday I can take a breath. Other than that, it's cool. It's the usual, it seems. Charlie, what's up? You got a weekly tarot for us?
I have got a weekly tarot, so I'm consulting the cards, I'm considering the cards, and the cards are saying the lovers, which is arguably one of my favorite tarot cards. And again, I feel like I'm always end up pulling for myself. I'm not pulling for you guys. I have just celebrated my 8-year anniversary with my wonderful girlfriend Sydney, and we had the weekend being soppy and lovely and romantic. So we very much were the lovers this weekend. Personal value, significant choices. Tell the people in your life that you love them.
Okay, right. Let's head into this week's Force Encounters.
For my ally is the Force.
Boy, oh boy, have I had a Star Wars week. I've got huge news coming for the listeners, viewers, podcast people around the globe. I'm not going to spill too many beans. We haven't had the call from the Anzellans, but we've got something I think coming that's probably just as good. So yeah, keep your eyes and ears peeled on the socials for that.
My Force Encounters this week again. Anniversary theme. We went to the cinema to see The Devil Wears Prada 2. Not Star Wars related, but what is Star Wars related is the fact that I got to see the Mando and Grogu trailer on the big screen. It was so cool. I'm really excited. It was really nice seeing like all of the kind of teasers for the merchandise on all of the posters and like the actual movie posters out and about. Like it was so cool. I genuinely am quite excited.
Oh yeah, saw that movie this weekend too. We watched the first one Friday
Ah,
night, and then we went on date night, and we saw.
ah.
Yeah, so it was fun. 1 second here for my Force encounter, folks. Sorry, I apologize, but yeah. So I've been kind of going back to my childhood, like my I don't know, high school years or whatever. I've been re-listening to Dungeons and Dragons Chronicles. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten it. This is kind of my gateway into like nerdom and all that kind of stuff. Like this is really kind of like was just really impactful. And I think that Weiss and Hickman, who I think they're married now, they wrote these books together, and they wrote a ton of books together for the Dungeons and Dragons stuff like that. I want them to write something for Star Wars. Like they need to be plucked from Star Wars, give them some money, make a book. I'm sitting there on the 3rd book of the Chronicles series, and I'm like bawling like a baby because one of the characters who pissed me off most of the book dies, but he's part of the good guys, and they just do stuff so well, and they're so imaginative. I don't know if they would they would be able to work inside the confines of what Lucasfilm does to people when they're writing. But I think that like I just think like we need some of that in Star Wars. Like I love Star Wars books and I really enjoy reading them. I'm super excited for the stuff that's coming out and and stuff that I've read. But man, there's something about the way those two write that I just want to see them in Star Wars or give us some kind of like Star Wars adjacent book or something. So there's my plug. If you've never read that, if you're into nerdy stuff, if you're into like Game of Thrones, or I don't know if it's really Game of Thrones, if you're into dragons and elves and wizards and all that stuff, Chronicles is where it's at, folks. Get out there and read. You would not be disappointed in that series. It's a long one, but it's a good one. And I just think that Star Wars could really learn something from that, like that storytelling.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Right then, folks, let's head to this week's news. We've got loads coming out of Batu.
The people in this crowd will soon be among almost 40,000.
For those who are among the 900 with news media or promotional tickets, this sneak preview probably will be the only chance to see the Empire.
So the first wave of guests have been announced for Star Wars Celebration LA. First up being Hayden Christensen, obviously playing Anakin Skywalker. We've then got Ian McDiarmid, Granddaddy Palpatine. Up next, we've got Anthony Daniels, C-3PO, D. Bradley Baker, the Clone Wars legend himself, and Michelle and being Omega. Obviously, we've seen some replies. There's going to be some more announcements coming soon. And obviously, at this point, tomorrow, Wednesday the 6th, is when it goes live, but more on that shortly. Have you all ready to go with all your laptops, your mobiles, your PCs, ready to watch that Running Man?
Oh, gosh. For real. Yikes.
Yeah,
I'll have two laptops and my cell phone running.
Nice.
Oh, I don't envy you guys. That was also my next bit of news. Tickets go on sale in T-minus 1 day. I don't think anybody's ready. So May the 6th, 2026, 12 o'clock Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 7 p.m. for us Brits over here. And I know a lot of you are going to be vying for those VIPs, and I really, really hope everyone gets what they're looking for. But also, just if you don't get the tickets that you're looking for, it's not the tickets that make Celebration, it's the Star Wars that makes Celebration. So you will have a good time all the same. And I'm so excited. And also stealing it from the Hunger Games, may the odds be ever in your favor.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm nervous because last time I was in Los Angeles or California for a Star Wars celebration, it was probably my least favorite. So we'll see what happens.
Oh.
Just I hope they run it better. I hope they run it better than they did in Anaheim. I hope it's more like what Japan did, or like even London was. I mean, other than the space at London ran pretty smoothly, I thought. Like, but it was a little tight. But yeah, we'll see. That'll be interesting, and people will know. I might try to if I can do it. I might try to like record myself while I'm trying to get the tickets and see like the frustration or whatever. I don't know yet. We'll see what's up with that. But
That would be cool.
yeah. So we also got more Legos. I know that on Thursday night, or technically, well, it was still Thursday for me at 11:01. I hopped online and got my UCS Naboo Starfighter UCS set. So that thing looks pretty sick. I got that, and I also got the dark saber hilt. But they've also released some new stuff too as well. So we got that thing coming out. They just announced some new ones as well. But we have the New Republic X-wing Starfighter, the Razor Crest, the Anzellan Starship, the AT-RT driver bust. We've got Yoda and Darth Vader bust, Brickhead's Mandalorian and Grogu set. A Grogu Mandalorian apprentice set, which comes with a buildable accessories. They have a bunch. It's like if you go to Walmart right now, you can see like this whole like the more Star Wars toys. I actually took a video this morning when I went there, and I'll post that later. More Star Wars toys and Legos in Walmart than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I walked over to the corner to see what was usually there. This is little tiny square of like a couple figures. I'm like, oh, that's sad. And then they had this big giant display out there of Mando and Grogu with some really cool stuff. So, and then I know all those new Legos are coming out, and they also just announced more Legos coming out in June and August. So there's going to be a set that's going to be those mechanical guards in front of the huts or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
like Embo's in that one with his Anuba. And I think Mando and Grogu are in that as well. So that'll be a fun little set to get. But yeah, lots and lots of Lego to be in store. So when I get that Razor Crest, I'll make sure to send a photo out, and that dark saber.
Nice.
Please do. I feel like I've got a little like mini Mando and Grogu set that I got gifted when I did the last Star Wars thing at the Lego store. So I feel like I need to build that. I worry that if I start it, I'm not going to be able to stop, and it's going to become one of my new obsessions. You're suddenly going to see all of these shelves filled with Lego, not like merch. I can't. I don't think I can do it to myself. Exactly. Yeah. See. Oh man. So this is the thing. I feel like it's Mando Grogu everything because it's hitting theaters on May 22nd. Disney has linked up with Bath and Body Works for a surprisingly on-brand crossover, a limited edition collection that lets you or at least your bathroom smell like a galaxy far, far away. Now, side note, I have some of the Star Wars candle sets that were released. And there's like Wookiee leather and like Endor and like Death Star smoke, and they're all disgusting. I'm going to be really honest with you. They all smell hideous. There's one called Bantha Milk.
Oh,
Not Bantha Poodoo.
Yeah, not my fave, but apparently this entire collection is like absolutely gorgeous. There's a bunch of different scents. There's like a Grogu scent, a Mando scent. There's 5 different items in the set so far. There's candles, tote bags, and people who are members of Bath and Body Works can get this collection on May the 4th. Everyone else, you have to wait till May 11th. American friends, listen carefully. It's not coming out in the UK. So if anybody wants to go to Bath and Body Works and get me lots of bits, then I would love you forever. Thank you so, so much. Please DM me. Thank you.
We have a Bath and Body Works in Canada.
We have one in the UK, but it's only quite recent and it's not the same as the American collection. It's like a separate.
Interesting.
But I wish
That's
to
so
go to
funny,
the
though.
Holy Land. Please take me.
We were literally talking about our favorite Star Wars smells, but yeah. It's clearly Mando and Grogu mayhem at the moment because Burger King have also launched their collaboration for the upcoming film. The lineup includes the barbecue bounty Whopper, which features Swiss cheese and bounty barbecue sauce served in a helmet-shaped carton. Other items include Grogu's blue cookie shake, Grogu's garlic chicken fries, and imperial cheddar ranch tarts. Oh my god. Customers who purchase specific combos or a bounty bundle containing all 4 items will receive 1 of 4 collectible cups. I went to Burger King last week prematurely, ready to go, and my wife was like, "Why have we come here? Why have we come here? Why don't we go to McDonald's, etc.?" As we usually do with my daughter. As soon as I blurted out, "Do you do the Mando stuff yet?" She knew straight away. But yeah, the person behind the counter was like, "No, it's not happening until next week." So yeah, I'll be there. I'll be getting this stuff. It's all nostalgia. I'm loving it. I can't wait for more.
nice. Yeah, I plan on doing it on Wednesday. Whopper Wednesdays here in the
Whopper
States.
Wednesday,
So I'm
yes.
gonna go and get. I'm gonna go get that stuff. I know the mailman sent us a photo. He'd gotten it last. What was that? Like a couple days ago, I think.
Whopper
So
Wednesday.
yeah, Whopper
I
Wednesday.
love
Baby.
that.
Here we
Oh,
go.
Wednesdays.
Let's
That's
see your
so
Whopper.
American.
It is. It is so American. More May the 4th drops from Hasbro, of course, back with a new wave of vintage collection figures. We've got Anakin Skywalker, Return of the Jedi version. We got Clone Trooper Commander, Attack of the Clones version, Plo Koon, Bodhi Rook, Luke Skywalker, Deep Cut Legends character from Heirs of the Empire. Yes, that's Luke with 2 U's.
Mm.
And a Genosian Warriors 4-pack. And for those exclusive figure hunters, Anakin Skywalker and Asajj Ventress 2-pack, a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. That's that one that's from the Clone Wars,
Yeah,
the original Clone Wars.
awesome.
Right? Yeah, it looks kind of cool. Again, it is going to be an expensive May. I mean, I've already bought. Yeah, we got the UCS I bought yesterday or this Thursday. Tickets on Wednesday. I've already got 2 tickets for Mando and Grogu. The plan is to go down to Oklahoma City to see Hayden Christensen there because it'll probably cost me half of what it'll cost the celebration. So yeah, May's gonna break me. If I'm out pondering for change on the side of the street, you guys will know why.
Awesome. Right, let's head into this week's main show.
Again, it's like poetry, sort of they rhyme.
George Lucas, the man, the myth, the maker.
Oh, that was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. Yes. He was born in 1944 in Modesto, a small, idyllic rural town in Northern California, a place that was the epitome of what the word, I think, Americana brings up. George describes it as more Midwest than California. His father ran the local stationery store, and his mother had a lot of health issues, so he was raised by his 3 older sisters.
Yes, he was an average student and described himself as an underachiever. His hobbies were reading, listening to rock and roll records, and most of all, cars. He raced, he won trophies, and he even worked as a crew member on the race car circuit.
People often joke about George being almost divine. We call him the Maker, capitalized as if he were a real deity, but maybe he is. A few days before graduating from high school, he was hit by another car while driving and rolled his Fiat 7 to 8 times before wrapping it around a tree. He was pronounced dead on the scene, but was taken to a hospital where a doctor disagreed. Thank the Maker indeed. And this, crazy as that all sounds, is where his journey towards Star Wars began.
Yeah, while recovering, he discovered the works of the comparative mythologist Joseph Campbell and signed up for an anthropology class he was teaching at the time. The ideas he learned about here, which was the archetypes and the monomyth, would go on to be instrumental in the creation of the Star Wars story.
For those of you who are unfamiliar, I'm leaping in, Jimmy. The monomyth refers to the narrative template called the hero's journey. This involves a hero who goes on an adventure. He's victorious amidst a decisive crisis and comes home changed or transformed. It's one of the most well-known and well-used story structures in modern literature and film. And now you've learned about it, you're going to see it everywhere. And what you
saw it in Devil Wears Prada last night. It's so funny. Like,
yep. I feel like we should, considering how essential and kind of core it is to Star Wars, I do feel like we should do an entire show just about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, because it's so, yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. It really is. And it's like Jimmy said, it's one of those things, once you know it, you see it absolutely everywhere. And what you also might be beginning to see is the very first seeds of Star Wars being sown. Try saying that, goodness me. A young farm boy, Luke Skywalker, goes on an epic, fantastical adventure and returns to find his aunt and uncle burned to a crisp. No. Sorry. He returns a great Jedi.
Yes. Now, we could spend the next 2 hours or so telling you the entire history of George Lucas, and we might just do that for the 50th anniversary on one mega big episode. But today we're going to be discussing more than just Star Wars. We're going to be talking about George Lucas himself. And the first question really we're going to put out there is, how should we define George Lucas's legacy? Filmmaker, innovator, businessman. I'd argue he's defined by all of these 3 things. But for me personally, he's got to be an innovator with all the use of CGI, with the prequel stuff. But going back to the original stuff, he really did set the boundaries when all the odds were against him. So for me, I'm going to go for innovator. What about you, Jimmy?
This is a tough one because he has such a great imagination, yet he's terrible at writing like dialogue and stuff. So filmmaker, I mean, I wouldn't say film writer, but man, that is tough. I'm going to say filmmaker personally, because innovator, I feel like he just threw money into problems, and the people at ILM should get more credit for what they were capable of doing.
Yeah.
Like, that whole story, if you've never watched the Industrial Light and Magic stuff on Disney Plus, folks, it is incredible to me that those people got anything done, first of all, with all the drinking and other things that they were doing. But yeah, I'm going to say filmmaker, right? Because innovator, I'm going to give the credit to the people at, I mean, he knew what he wanted.
Fair. Charlie?
Interesting. So I would say that being a businessman is what defines George Lucas's legacy. Obviously, I know people are kind of mostly aware, but the things that he put in place in terms of merchandising for Star Wars was done parallel to him making the films. He had such a quiet and secure confidence in what he was doing. Yeah, it took an insane amount of time to get there, but he knew that it was going to be a success. And he knew that enough to gamble that risk, and suddenly it became an absolute empire overnight. He was incredibly smart to secure the rights that he did for the merch. Like we'll get there's a question about this further on down in our kind of our our flow for the episode. And I think it has to be businessmen. Incredible filmmaker, amazing ideas. Obviously, massive respect to the teams behind ILM, because without them, we wouldn't have all of this anyway. But yeah, those business strategies are. I feel like I need to learn about the. I need like an Economist article about George Lucas. I'm sure there is one. I'm pretty sure Forbes have done something.
Yeah, no,
Well, just
100%.
didn't they just put him on a list of like most influential
Yes.
creators,
Yeah.
or he was like in the top 5, I believe, and that kind of goes into that next
Mhm.
question right there too.
Yeah, it does. I think it's super interesting as well. Before we go into that, is that we've all got 3 different viewpoints of
Yeah.
George Lucas. So yeah, I'm definitely keen to hear from the listeners and viewers on what they think we should define George Lucas's legacy by. And then yeah, just going on to that next question. Then, is he more important for the films he directed or the industry he helped reshape? And again, for me, sticking with that innovator piece, I'm probably going to go for industry, because it did change everything personally, I think, in the filmmaking business with his ideas, the storyline, etc., behind Star Wars. That did reshape the industry. But obviously, there's films before that as well, before Star Wars, but ideas did come from. We did a panel in Japan, didn't we, Jimmy, with the influence on Star Wars from Japanese culture, etc. But yeah, that's it for me, Jimmy.
Oh boy, this is a tough one because originally he only directed the first one, and he directs A New Hope, and without that, like, we don't get anything else.
No.
Right? But then he also directed the prequels. So you're like, oh boy. And obviously those ones aren't my favorite. I mean, they're not whatever. So God, but then he also revolutionizes film. Like,
Yeah.
the kids are always
Yeah.
like, why do you like it? I'm like, well, we don't have Marvel. We don't have Harry Potter. We don't have these big epic sagas without Star Wars, at least
No.
not for another however long. And so, man, that is a tough one. I'm going to say he's more important for the industry because I think he changes cinema moving forward. I mean, it's
Yeah.
never been the same. And then we get the Terminator series. What he opened and the imagination, and you think about the influence of James Cameron and all these other movie directors that grew up watching him and his movies, and now they're like, well, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the industry.
Strong. Charlie?
Oh, see, I've listened to both of you speak, and now I'm even more stuck than I was at the beginning of this question.
Yeah.
I feel like it feels like a chicken and the egg. If you don't have one, then you don't have the other. If it wasn't for Star Wars, the industry wouldn't have developed the way that it did. But if it wasn't for the industry being where it was at the time, George wouldn't have been able to push it to the points that it got pushed to. So this is tough. I think I am going to actually have to say the industry, because, like you say, it was revolutionary, and what it's fallen into, we wouldn't have modern computer generated graphics and CGI the way that we do now without what they were doing at Pinewood and Elstree and over in the States. Like, an industry titan to the truest definition of the phrase.
I mean, he changes everything. I mean, the whole thing with the credits, all that stuff, the way that he wanted the movie to start, and there's just a lot that he changed for film. So I think you can't, I mean, either one's right. Obviously, it's incredible.
Yes. After his encounters and hot off the starting line with the ideas from Joseph Campbell, George went on to study at the University of Southern California to study film. This is where he made his first ever film. One's a bit of a mouthful: Electronic Labyrinth THX 1138 4EB, which, after graduating, he was given the chance to remake it as a feature film, which would go on to become THX 1138. Now, what do we think early films like THX 1138 and American Graffiti reveal about George's kind of original voice as a filmmaker? But hands up if you've actually seen the OG George Lucas creations. You need to be honest.
American Graffiti, I have.
I tried to find
Nice.
that a couple weeks ago because I'm like, I want to see what this film's all about, and I couldn't find it, so I have not seen it.
So this is the interesting thing, right? So I've seen it ages ago, but this was part of the Japanese panel that we did, even though it's obviously not related to Japan. But point being is, with American Graffiti, it's not like one single plot; it's multiple different stories happening at once. And that is what he brought across, I think, to Star Wars with Leia's arc, with Solo's arc, etc., etc. And I think there's a lot of things that he brought across that knew worked and did work for Star Wars from American Graffiti. So I think these stories really were like the bedrock foundation for his career.
I think it shows too, like his, he gets. You say George Lucas, I mean, everyone immediately Star Wars, but he was challenged to do American Graffiti. THX 138 also is like kind of anti-government and kind of shows some of the storylines that'll come up with the Ewoks and things. Imagine him making movies today. What would be in these Star Wars films is all I'm going to say about that. But so yeah, I think both of these are kind of like Jack, like you said, like he brings something from both of them over to Star Wars. So that's pretty cool.
I think so much of those early films are incredibly passionate creative. Like around this time is when he started kind of becoming friends with Steven Spielberg as well, and he was surrounded by innovators, creatives, and it was him having these ideas and trying to articulate them in ways that like people have like ripped THX 1138 to absolute pieces. People think it's an awful film. I've only seen bits of it, and I've only read about it in the context of how it's usually compared to Star Wars. And there are actually quite a lot of ideas that get moved around from THX 1138 into Star Wars. And I think everything he did, all of those films, all of that learning, all of that mistake making, helped him be able to get to Star Wars a bit easier. So much of that pushed all of that nervousness and that kind of beginner energy out of the way. And genuinely, I think the voice from all of that is just somebody who wanted to tell a story and also use those stories to make very bold political statements about the world around him. We love you for that, George.
All right, so now we talk about A New Hope. What made Star Wars Episode 4 such a turning point in our culture?
I think you're the best person to answer this because me and Charlie weren't alive.
Ouch.
Wait. We're doing a rain check. We're doing a rain check on this question. I promise we'll cycle back round. Tell me about the first time that you saw A New Hope. Tell me.
Oh my gosh. I would have to, it's probably on television for me personally. I mean, it's always been a part of my world. So I'm going to say television. I don't think, because I mean, VHS and stuff like that was so expensive to rent and to own at first. So I'm going to definitely say that it was on television. I can just remember one time as a kid, we're out playing. I'm like, I really want to watch Star Wars. Like, I wish it'd come on TV. And that Friday night, Star Wars A New Hope was on TV. And I thought, holy cow, like this was amazing. So yeah, for me, it was going to be on television, probably in the, I want to say probably like 1980s. I've only been like, man, I'm trying to think of how old I was because I knew about it. I know I went and saw Return of the Jedi with my dad in 83, but I was only like 9 or 10. So yeah, I'm going to say like early 80s.
Strong. I have no recollection, I don't think proper recollection of when I first saw A New Hope. My mum just put me in front of the TV when I was a bit much. So I think...
So constantly.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
VHS was the thing for me. I'm trying to think. I think, looking at my dog, she's this bit of me, I'd have just been enthralled by it and just sat there, watching the ship go overhead, seeing like Chewbacca, etc. People fighting with swords, laser blasters going off everywhere, the sounds, the effects. Yeah. So for me, I'd have just been like absolutely starstruck.
That's actually so precious. Obviously, if people have listened to this podcast for a while, you know that I was a hardcore prequel fan. I think I watched the first Star Wars when I was about 9. I watched Phantom Menace, and then I sort of only knew and kind of comprehended about the prequels. And I think I have vague memories of A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back being on the telly at Christmas, but it wasn't really something my parents watched. So we'd kind of flick past it. It'd be on for 5 minutes in the background. And I think the first time I watched A New Hope properly, I was about 13, about 17 years ago, 16, 17 years ago. And it would have been late at night with my laptop when I should have been asleep because I've got school the next day, with a blanket round me in the darkness, typing onto Free Movies 1, 2, 3 and New Hope, clicking past all of the adverts and sitting there and watching I think this is quite controversial. I remember being quite underwhelmed
Ooh.
because obviously I was a prequels kid. I was the era of CG and flashy and and this was just like puppets and deserts. And it, I enjoyed it, and I remember I went on and watched the rest of them and really enjoyed those. And then very, very quickly, it became part of the I'm watching Star Wars, which means I'm watching all of Star Wars. I love it all, but it took me a while to warm to them. I think it just the order that I watched them in, the age that I was, the
Yeah.
era that I was born into. I think that makes such a huge difference on how Star Wars impacts us.
They are slower movies, like A New Hope. I mean, it was fast for
Mm,
its time, but you think about how fast movies move now, like, and people aren't happy if they're not like things aren't changing. I mean, people are never happy though, because then Rise of Skywalker is super fast. Everyone's complaining about it, but yeah, I can see that from if you grew up with the prequels and then you went into Star Wars, like they are slower movies. I mean, take Rogue One versus Star Wars. I mean, you go from if you watch Rogue One and you go right into Star Wars: A New Hope, it's kind of like, whoa, this is like glacial,
yeah,
as far as
yeah.
moving. But I mean, the story is obviously was what's important there and kind of kickstarted everything. But yeah, that's cool. I honestly like Jack. I can't recall the first time either. So
To be fair, I'd probably argue that in the fact that it does kick off quite quick. I mean, you've got a massive ship screaming overhead, so straight away that's going to grab your attention.
yeah,
And then you've got obviously the hallway scene, blasters going off everywhere. But then you are right, because if you compare that to Revenge of the Sith, probably the best opening of any film I can think of, where there's so much going on, it's probably a fair point as well. But yeah, in my opinion, I think it's pretty fast, and that's what does grab your attention, especially again back in those days, in the great days.
well, yeah, yeah. I mean, in the '80s and stuff like that, that was the standard, and everyone
Yeah,
went off
Hmm.
of it. But movies itself and even television shows have gotten quicker and more fast paced. And you think about
Yeah.
the action from these '80s movies that I loved when I was growing up as a kid. I mean, they're not anything compared to what we see on television today half the
no,
time. So movie making has really come a long way. Television, movie making, anything on the screen has come a pretty long way.
yeah, for sure.
I would absolutely have to agree. Okay, so now we can get back to the first question. What made Star Wars A New Hope such a cultural turning point? I'm going to steal an answer to this because I think this is something I talk about a lot with Star Wars and something I'm super, super passionate about. Star Wars A New Hope fulfills the rule of cool in a way that I have never quite seen captured in a film. It's clunky puppets made from Halloween masks, yet maintains this essence of cool that is like undeniable. There's troopers and there's blasters and there's ships and like Darth Vader is just the definition of cool. And I think that when sci-fi before that, or what we call hard sci-fi, like 2001 A Space Odyssey, we wouldn't have Star Wars if it wasn't for 2001 Space Odyssey and studios realizing we can take a risk on things that are a bit wacky. 2001 A Space Odyssey is hard sci-fi, and if you're not into that, it's really, really hard to engage with. It's beautiful, it's visual, it's cerebral, it's all of these things. I wouldn't necessarily say that it falls into that cool category. And I know a huge part of Star Wars for George Lucas was, yes, I'm writing this story, but I am writing it for kids. If you can capture the 11-year-old boy to watch your film and enjoy it, you're doing it. You're going to make all of the money in the world. You're going to have the time of your life. And I think Star Wars, specifically A New Hope, it introduced the concept of sci-fi and cool, made it work, and that was it. Lid blown off, gone.
Fair point. Fair point. I think for me, it's the fact that there's something for everyone. Whether you're a little girl, want to be a princess, whether you just want to fly
Hmm.
ships in the form and skies of Han Solo. Obviously, look at the films prior to that. You've mentioned, it's all like He-Man, for example, and stuff like that. He's a big, strong, bulky man. You look at that and you're thinking, oh, I can't quite get to that level. But then you look at Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
let's say, a farm boy. You straight away, there's certain tones to the film that really do hit home. It's just a normal,
Mm.
average boy, but then suddenly all that put into a pot, and then you chuck in the Force, and it's like a religion that's something you can believe in as well. I think.
Yeah. You guys mind if I get historical on you for a second?
Here we go.
Yeah.
Settle in, folks. Settle in.
Go
All
on.
right. So
Go on.
you have to think about, like, just and this is going to be mostly based in the US, but obviously our histories are really connected with the UK and things like that, with everything that we've gone through, even stretch back. But if you think about, like, from 1940s with World War II, all that stuff that he pulls into it, that stuff is fresh in people's minds. I mean, the people who are going to go see this movie probably had fought, in 45 or whatever, and he pulls those memories. And then you think about, go into the Korean War. Like, when I was teaching my kids, and I tell them, like, today it seems really hectic. Like, every day there's something new. We've got the things going on in other countries. We've got the stuff going on in our country, but, like, it hasn't ever changed. It was constantly, like, just everything. Like, the world's going to end. You had the Cold War, where every day kids are practicing getting under their desk and hiding and saving themselves from nuclear blast. And that pulls into the Vietnam War, when there's nothing. So much negativity, so much scare, like, from the 40s on. And even you think about it too, even from 1918, like, at the end of World War I, all the way through that, you get into the Depression and the cool, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Finally, that all kind of seems to, like, it kind of gets pushed into, and those time periods are going to, and I think George was born right towards the end of World War II, but he's going to grow up in a very tumultuous time in history, and that's all going to influence him. And he was able to take it, package it, and it's like you said, Jack, you can't really see yourself as He-Man because he's this big giant, whatever. But everyone's average. I mean, people may not think of themselves like that, but every average human being. And you see the fall of tyranny, and this is in the middle of the Cold War, and the good guys win. It's a positive message. I think that one of the reasons it does it because it gave people hope.
Yeah.
In a time that was terrifying. I mean, you think about what going on in our country with, like, the civil rights movement and with the Cold War and the wars that were happening in Vietnam. And, we're getting into the stuff with the Iran hostage stuff. Like, I don't mean to go on and on and on, but this movie, I think, just, you can have your bad guys, but the good guys are going to win. And any average man can be the reason, but it takes a group of people, which we saw flushed way out in Andor. But this was the start of that. And I really think that a lot of that plays out, and why it hit so hard. And again, there had never been anything visually like it. I remember, like, one or two things from my time in high school. Miss Boyle, my English teacher, we could get her on Star Wars. She went every single day for 2 weeks. Every single day for 2 weeks, she went and she saw Star Wars because she's like, Jimmy, there has never been anything like that. Like, I could not wrap my head around it. And I've done tons of research for, like, because, like, tomorrow is May the 4th, obviously. We're recording on the 3rd, and I'll do a big Star Wars day in class. I'll be dressed up like Kenobi, and we'll do the history of Star Wars and just kind of have fun that day. But it's also tied into the history of the world and things like that. But the good guys win. It was a positive message. It gave people hope. So, and then just visually, I mean, they may have had 100 stories like that previously, but you had never, ever seen the stuff that ILM was able to do. And so it just changes everything. I think that combination it was like the perfect storm. Sorry.
Perfectly put, young sir.
Sorry.
A million chef kisses, a million chef kisses. We could end the episode right there, to be fair. That's absolutely beautiful. How much of A New Hope's success do we think was vision? Was it luck? Was it collaboration? Because lest we forget, George Lucas's first wife is responsible for the tightening of the script, the editing of the script, and also the editing of the actual film, because George didn't have the best impulse control.
No.
Well, Marsha, right? Marsha Lucas, right? That's it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot more to her than people give her credit for sure.
100%. Like, it was, again, it comes down to the perfect storm for me. Like, his wife fixes that. He decides to not go with the music that was popular in movies at the time. So he brings John Williams in, a relative unknown, to, bring it back to the way, I just think sheer luck, honestly, because you just brought all these things and it could have gone so badly. I mean, he was terrified. He was in Hawaii because he thought it was going to flop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm going to say sheer dumb luck.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with luck as well, I think. But at the same time, there's a lot of factors that play into this. I mean, right at the start of this episode, we spoke about George Lucas wrapping his car around a tree, presumed dead. You know, that has to have some element of luck. And then everything up until the point of this being filmed and going forward, it's either luck or great planning.
I also have to agree. I could sit here and say that it's vision, it's passion, it's manifestation. You put into the world what you want to get out of it. All of that. No, this was luck. This was pure roll of the dice in the hands of the gods. Luck.
I will say there is an element of passion in it as well. Well, I say a large element of passion in it, because again, everyone that worked on the
Yes.
film had a passion for what they were doing, and that
Oh,
was driven
yeah.
by George Lucas turning up and being like, "Can we stop playing dinosaurs and get some stuff done?"
Yeah, I mean, and when I say luck, I just mean luck of like everything that worked out. Marshall
Yeah.
Lucas is editing, ILM getting the job done, John Williams coming in, Lucas understanding that he didn't have it done right. You know what I mean? And the fact that he was friends with Steven Spielberg and Francis Ford Coppola and Martin Scorsese, and they all got to see this like, nope, this isn't gonna work. Fix this. Ben Burt or whatever, you know, with the sound. Like there are so many things that just kind of fell into his lap. Again, he had to have that vision. But when I say luck, I just mean like luck of like all these people, like you said, Jack, their passion all kind of focus in that same point, and then we got Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, that leads really nicely into our next little section. George Lucas's well, I say George Lucas's, I mean that very, very broadly. Contribution to animation, computer technology, CGI, basically everything we know about modern film techniques came from the maker himself, standing in front of a room full of animators, creatives, the best of their industry, and telling them to just make it. And he'd be back in a few days to see if it was any good. I mean, this is such a massive question. How did George change filmmaking through ILM and Skywalker Sound? The collaboration that he fostered. I think I've seen this a lot in Star Wars documentaries. They talk about how Star Wars wouldn't be Star Wars if it wasn't for the collaboration factor. This was a group project of love, blood, sweat, and tears from every possible angle. But because George picked the best of the best and also seemed to have a particularly good knack for who would be able to execute what he wanted to execute, a lot of it was headhunted by him. A lot of it was him keeping his ear to the ground through the film school. And lo and behold, he built this incredible team who were given impossible tasks and came out with Star Wars.
Nah, I totally agree. But I think at the same time, the biggest thing that he did to change filmmaking, and he sort of touched on it there, is he made his own company. He made ILM.
Yeah.
So, and I think that opened up every other company's horizons and gone, why don't we just try and do this? Or what if we could hire these people? Or, so I think for me, you sort of went around it there, Charlie, is, he made his own company. He made his own special effects company to do what he wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have nothing else really to add to that. That's the thing, is he didn't let anything stand in his way, and he made.
No.
Do this. And it's crazy with it, though. It's like, if you watch that ILM documentary, he fires the guy after the first movie. You know what I mean? He's like, you're not the right guy to lead this. Like, that's pretty stone cold, man. I cannot remember that guy's name, and that sucks because
you got to be cutthroat.
Yeah, but to do that, to take everybody but that kid, that guy who was running things, but he's like, I think you're the reason, whatever. Man, but hey, he knew what he wanted to do, and he knew he was getting ready to make another one. So that was pretty nuts.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Guys, I need you to tell me what your favorite sound in Star Wars is. Easy. Can I go first?
Go for it.
My favorite sound in Star Wars is thanks to Ben Burt and his incredible sound design. Not the ignition sound of a lightsaber, but the settling sound that it makes just afterwards when it drops into that kind of low, steady hum, and just before it's moved and it makes the swishy noise. It's really, really specific, but I know you guys will understand what I mean.
Yeah.
That
not quite sure. Can you give us a demonstration?
Yeah,
I'm not giving you guys an audio demonstration. No.
Fair. I'm the complete opposite to Charlie. Mine is the lightsaber going.
Oh, the ignition. Nice.
Yeah. So that's it for me. What
That's
about you, Jimmy?
cool.
I want to say it's the TIE Fighter Scream.
Oh, that's my second one.
That one is so good. If you're talking original trilogy, like from that movie, obviously what was the thing that he drops from the fire spray? What's that bomb he drops? I
Oh, the
can't think of the name.
seismic charge.
The
The
seismic
seismic
charge is really insane. But I'm gonna say the way they use that scream in later things, and especially like in Andor a bunch, where they use that sound, and even in like Rebels, where they use that sound to like scare people. It's like part
Mhm.
of the it doesn't have a shield, but it has that sound. I think that
Yeah.
is pretty iconic. It's a pretty iconic sound from the very first movie. So I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah. I got to give a special shout out to obviously Darth Vader. That breathing's obviously
Yeah.
iconic. Another fan favorite of mine is the pod racing noise.
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
that's a good one.
That's like, oh, and then the music kicks
Especially
in.
when you're in theaters and it feels like it's around your head too,
Oh man.
Yeah, those. I mean, there's someone we could. I don't know if we've ever done it or not. I mean, talk about sounds or something on the show, but yeah, if you went from like each series or each movie, like what's your favorite sound in that? Just there's so much
Save that for.
crazy for Star Wars and how they did it. You got Chewie's voice and you got R2D2, and I mean, there's so many things. The jump to hyperspace, the light speed.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a really good one.
Another iconic one.
Yeah, but I'm TIE Fighter scream, man. You hear that? I'm like ducking down, like here they're coming.
You guys are nerding out so hard right now, and it is so cute to sit and watch. Oh my goodness. Do we have one moment of like CG design that ilk that really, really sticks in your head even after all of this time?
From the original film?
Yeah.
Has to
God,
be the ship going over.
I was gonna say that's pretty
Yeah.
insane. The lightsabers were pretty nuts. Like
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
like that, with the technology. I mean, think about how they do it now versus how they did it then. That's pretty iconic. Just to be like, whoa, like that laser is. I mean, I didn't think about how in the hell would that really work. And obviously that's one thing you got to suspend. But yeah, I think seeing the lightsaber come on with Luke, he's flipping it around in Kenobi's thing, and then he's playing with it on the Falcon, and of course you see it with Ben and Vader having their final duel. But the lightsaber I think is something that kind of blows my mind.
There's so many, even the trench run on the Death Star, like that blew me. I think though, for me, the biggest one is the design of the cantina, Mos Eisley cantina, when you go in there and you've got all those different aliens and that. And I think that is something that sticks with all the original trilogy fans back in the day. Because again, all those different costumes, creatures, people's mind was just exploding. And everyone's looking around and not really paying attention what's going on. So for me, I'm gonna go for the bar scene, Mos Eisley cantina.
Nice choice. Mine's the chess set on the Falcon. I remember that really, really, really enchanting me when I watched it. And I can imagine for people seeing that in like 77 was absolutely mind-boggling. Like I know that things like that had been around, but the fact that they created all of these individual creature designs, like shout out to Phil Tippett and his stop motion animation team. Back on the Phil Tippett train, sorry everybody. Just wow. What mind conceives this? It blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. It really does.
Yes. So we've spoken about Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. They made the original trilogy perfect. I think we can all agree on that. But we need to talk some more about the prequels. What do we think George was trying to achieve with them, and why were they so diverse when they were released? Start with you on this one, Charlie.
Oh, I talk about this a little bit later on. Classic, like tortured artist, had a set of ideas and started the story in the middle, and then realized I need to go and write the beginning of this story. And I'm sure that those ideas were percolating when he was already writing, kind of, and going through the original trilogy process. But I think he just had this deep, intense need to finish the story, but also it had taken such a while for him to get to that point. I know it took him a long time to write the script for The Phantom Menace. I think he was really torn between, I want to do this, I don't want to do this, I'm really struggling to do this. And he the era that the original trilogy was made in was not the same as the era that the prequels were made in. And I think the influences for him as a creative was so different. And he was trying to appeal to a different market, a different group of kids, a different zeitgeist, a different generation. And I think that is why things ended up being so divisive, because the original trilogy fans were expecting copy and paste, same again. And it ended up being such an unbelievable mismatch. I think everybody had such expectations for it, and then I don't think it matched anybody's expectations, unless once again you were like 8.
Yeah.
Jimmy, do you agree?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I agree with, like, he wanted to continue the story. I mean, he had 1, 2, and 3 planned out. Supposedly, he had 7, 8, and 9, and possibly even a 10 through 12. Ideas for these movies. So, yeah, I think honestly, like, he maybe didn't understand, or maybe we didn't understand as a culture, as fans, why we love Star Wars so much. But then when we saw all the CGI and brand new, and it wasn't lived in, and it didn't look real, I think that might have been the turning point for what. I don't think the Star Wars got the credit. It's hard to tell because we didn't. I was very young when it came out.
Yeah.
I don't think that gets the credit that it gets now for, like, the set design, and all these people who went out there and they kit bash stuff together, and and then that's what made Star Wars Star Wars. But we didn't realize that till we got the prequels, maybe. And then the prequels come out and you see that that Naboo the Naboo ship. I'm like, that didn't feel like Star Wars to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I had a really hard time with that. I was like, well, that doesn't look like any ship I've seen in Star Wars. And then the starfighters, and then, I don't know. I think that's kind of where he lost some of the older fans. I think the story in itself is good. Like, it's cool to see, like, the rise of Anakin. Like, that's awesome. But I think
Yeah.
that maybe we could have, if he would have, I know he wanted to use the technology. And I think that's what really got people, where we kind of, older fans didn't feel like it felt like Star Wars or looked like Star Wars. And that's only my take. Like, I'm not speaking for everybody, but that's kind of where I think they lost us a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think his creative bubble in his head was bursting with the ideas. He's seen, obviously, the advances in technology, and thought, you know what, actually, I could have really pushed the boat out. And again, he did. I think he set the standard quite high again. And yeah, he had all those ideas for 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think that's count numbers. 9, 10, 11, 12. And I think with anyone that, like, makes things or creates stuff, you get that inside of you. You just want to get it out, and you've got given that canvas. I don't think, like, money's a massive factor in it, if I'm totally honest. And I know a lot of people are saying you're probably just saying that, but I genuinely don't. I just think he just wanted that story out, like you mentioned there, Charlie.
And also, there'd been such huge advancements in things like CG and animation and all of these things. And I think he was excited to take all of that and use all of that to try and make Star Wars again, because I know that he wasn't satisfied with A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, or Return of the Jedi. That is, it's such an artist thing. And obviously, like, again, like, he chops and changes, and there's questions about, like, it. Who?
Yeah, I feel like I get why he wanted to do it, but I mean, by the time he goes to make these, it's 1999, and I think they started, 95 or planning and whatever. I mean, Star Wars was 20 plus years old, whatever, by that point. I mean, it was iconic. People still loved it. This was on him. Like, everything he brings onto himself by remaking these or adding stuff to the original. I mean, he only has himself to blame. Like, people weren't upset about the original. I don't remember everyone saying, I wish this had a bigger explosion, or some crazy animal with a jaw wall falling off of it when they're coming into. I mean, it didn't need it. And so I just think, I don't know. He was his own worst enemy. And I get it. Like, you write and you create and you're like, this is what I had in mind. But what you did and what you put out there change the world. So maybe just leave it alone.
Maybe. Well, do the prequels reflect a filmmaker who is unrestricted in a world of innovation and fantastical new technology, or a filmmaker who is unchecked?
I want to ask that question next time I see Doug Chang. Whenever we have, he does a lot of speaking engagements now. I want to be, was there ever a time that you were like, nope, this is a bad idea, but you knew you couldn't tell George no? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he talks so glowingly about his experience, but there has to be times when they're like listening to them talk in Attack of the Clones and like, oh, this is really cringe. Like, maybe we could try this, or I don't know. There has to be times. I say unchecked, because when he was using his own money, people couldn't really tell him no. I would love it if they'd be honest with it. I don't think that John Nolan and all those guys would ever be honest about it, but I bet you that young group was probably like, what the, like these guys all grew up on the original. They loved it. They had to have been like, yeah, this is really cool technology. I'm glad we're making more movies, but does this fit? Does this work? Like, I'd love some truth, maybe, in 20 years when George is gone, people will feel a little bit more comfortable coming out like, well, this one time, I don't know.
Like, Doug Chang is such an interesting one to bring up as well. Like, this is a man who's dedicated all of his life to creating and designing for Star Wars. Everything he's ever done has been for Star Wars, and he is responsible for some of the most iconic. There are things on this shelf behind me that Doug Chang has designed and conceptualized. How he has remained so glowing and lovely of George Lucas, because there were multiple times in that ILM documentary where he was like, George, I have spent months making this ship for you. Oh, great one. Please love my designs. And George looks at it and goes, no, I'm sorry. I've been to art school. I've tried my best to understand what it means to take criticism about your own artwork. I have kicked chairs. I have thrown paint pots at walls. I have told tutors to go away very, very rudely. How he sustained that, I will never know.
I think this is a good one, Charlie, to be fair. I think the prequels reflect someone that is unchecked. I think the originals are unrestricted, and I think the sequels then are restricted and checked.
Ooh. Ooh.
That's where I'm going with that.
100%. I absolutely love that. I feel like we need to come back to that. Speaking of a filmmaker unchecked, we need to talk about the revisions, the changes, the tweaks, the twists, the turns. George may have been.
You're not a fan of this stuff, then, Jimmy?
Oh,
okay, interesting.
George may have been a brilliant filmmaker and a genius when it came to innovation, but he was also the classic tortured artist, never satisfied, always going back and changing. George has always needed collaboration, but when left to his own imperial devices, if you will, we ended up with the version of A New Hope that we've all seen and maybe wished we kind of hadn't. McClunky, get your film critic hats on. What do these constant changes to the original trilogy say about George Lucas as an artist?
He needed to find something new to work on. Like, he should have made the sequel trilogy. If he can't leave those stuff well enough alone, I mean, some of them don't make sense. I mean, I feel like adding like the moon whenever they're flying towards the Death Star and like in A New Hope or whatever, like, I feel like that's fine. Like, that's cool, right? That doesn't look fake. But having Han Solo walk up and over Jabba the Hutt's tail, I mean, that looks horrendous.
Yeah.
And we just talked about that last week. Like, I forgot that could be someone's first interaction with Jabba the Hutt. I'm like, that sucks. If you didn't see Jabba the Hutt for the first time in Return of the Jedi, I'm sorry. But yeah, I don't understand them. I don't think some of them are fine. The big ring around the Death Star when it blows up, that's cool. Make the explosion bigger. Little things in the background. I don't know. I don't get it. Making Han shoot second, I don't understand it. I guess, if he's supposed to be the scoundrel, then why not shoot first?
Fair.
He knows what he's doing. Like, it's not like he shoots him just for the fun of it. He shoots him because he knows he's going to get shot if he doesn't. Like, this shows a guy who understands the galaxy. That's why I
Yeah.
don't think Solo's
Mhm.
really a scoundrel in the first place. He just
Yes.
understands the galaxy he's living in. So I think George should have been put on timeout.
Should have
Oh
been
yeah,
checked.
I 100% agree. I I remember after I watched A New Hope, I was very active on websites like Tumblr, which were kind of these tight, kind of niche pockets of fan community. Like the Star Wars fandom was rabid, mostly female. And I started seeing about like Han shot first and people arguing violently that of course Han Solo shot first, blah blah blah. And I didn't understand what any of this meant.
Mm.
So I did a bit of digging, and then I discovered that the New Hope that I'd seen was the edited version, the
Mhm.
version with all of these horrible CGI. I remember watching it and thinking there are bits in here that I don't like. There are things that don't seem like they fit. So quietly sailed the high seas of piracy to find as close as I could. They call it the despecialized version now. There's a couple of different variants out there. People have spent decades at this point working on it, and obviously I think they're releasing the original version for the 50th anniversary,
I
but
don't think that's what we're getting.
I don't think that's what we're
I
getting
think we're
either.
getting
You
the
make a very,
99
very good
version.
point. And I was horrified at what George did. To me, it feels like, I don't know, Monet resurrecting and walking into the Tate Modern to go and correct one of the lily pads, you know? Some great artist reappearing from the great, like Edgar Allan Poe coming back from the dead to rewrite a chapter in one of his books. Why? When it was such an intense fan response of this is incredible, this is perfect. But to George, it wasn't that. This was, I don't know. I wish he just left it alone. And obviously, what can I say? I'm not an accomplished filmmaker with any of that background, but leave it alone.
I think he was bored, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I just think because, like, some of these changes, even like the McClunky change comes later on in the
Yeah.
no comes later on, like these are things that just like randomly show up in Star Wars. And it's like, dude, get a hobby, go build a museum or something, like, so I don't know. I don't understand. And the problem with George is he'll tell you one thing once, like he'll be on a show and he'll tell you why he did it one way, and then in a couple of years he will have a completely different reason for why he did it. And so you never. I mean, it's like the Joker from Batman. Like you don't know what story is the truth.
Yeah.
You
No, that's fair.
Perfect.
I think for me, it didn't really add or take anything away. Like, I think I'm sort of on par with Jimmy, where some things it added to brilliant, some things it was like whatever. But yeah, no.
It's like the scenes in Empire where they put stuff behind Cloud City and they made like in the windows of
Mhm.
Cloud City you could see like that stuff's fine. That's enhancing. It's not changing the movie, but I don't know. I think some of the things he did were kind of.
I didn't like the expanding of Tatooine. I didn't think it was necessary.
Mhm.
It didn't need
Mm.
to look like that. It made more sense in my head when it's bare and empty.
Yeah, because it's a desert. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's
point.
so much that well, did revising the films enhance them, or did it just undermine their legacy? I think
It
I know
did
we've kind
nothing
of, I
for
guess,
me. It did
did
nothing.
nothing for you. So you're neutral.
Yeah.
I don't think it undermined the legacy of them. I just don't. I'll be neutral on him as well. I don't think it did anything to the legacy of Star Wars or to him. I do think moving on to the next question, like I think
Hmm.
it changes my answer to this next question because he did stuff like this.
Ah, okay. Then we shall move on.
All right. So moving into the final era, the era of the Mouse House. Why do we think George sold Star Wars to Walt Disney Company? Was it the right decision, creatively and personally? What do you
What a
guys
question.
think? This is tough.
I mean, creatively, this is difficult. See, again, die-hard sequels fan. I love what came out of the Disney Lucasfilm merger. I do. Whether that
Get
gets
her.
me put on a stake and burned, I don't know. Like, I don't. I think it was. I think it was the right decision for George. I think he was done. I think he really. I think when he sat down to try and do any more Star Wars, I really do think his brain was like, no.
Probably like start shaking and having fits.
Yeah, just like
Like,
just can't bring himself to put pen onto paper. I think he was like, I'm done. Also, making kind of infinite money from just merchandise sales, like never mind the films, never mind the gross, never mind ticket sales, any of that. just on the merchandise, he was sitting pretty. So why would he need to make any more when that merchandise revenue is going to be endless?
Yeah.
I'm responsible for most of it with the Jar Jar Binks stuff down there. Look, I'm sorry, George, but I'm going to keep putting money in your pocket when I keep finding weird Pepsi collabs that include Jar Jar Binks from the 2000s. Great. It creatively is a decisive one. I love the sequels. I know that's not how everybody else feels. So for me, yes and yes. And why? Just because he could.
Yeah.
I think he needed to sell it to Disney because he did not have the money or the. I wonder if Disney wasn't going to like. Because I wonder that purchase, like George, like, hey, I think that we should build a Star Wars land and we should do this, but Disney's like, well, then we want the rights to it. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder. We all, we just hear about the $4 billion signing. We don't know what kind of led up to that. That's not something they just decided over lunch. Like, this is a long time process between him and Bob Iger, and I wonder if, like, for him too, at his age, like, it's time to move on and do something new. He has this idea for a museum. He knows he'll have the money for it if he sells it. But I mean, he had Dave Filoni sitting right there. He has Doug Chang sitting right there. He could as easily have turned things over to the story group and then been able to input, no, I don't like this, or yes, I like this. So, and I personally think it was a good idea because I think he needed to get away from it. Like, I think that being able to remember George this way, I think things would have gone. I personally believe that things would have gone horribly wrong, more so than some people feel they did in a sequel trilogy. If George had done it, I don't think it would have been. I don't think it would have been as good as what we've gotten.
No,
be perfectly honest, and I think it would have diminished his legacy.
That's a strong shout. So you're saying that if George Lucas had done the sequels, they wouldn't have been as good as they are now?
I don't think they would have been. I don't think the story would have been there. I think it would have been different. I think it would have fallen short. I think we would have. I mean, and I know, and I appreciate George and all that stuff, but I don't know. I think maybe it was time. For that, especially with the tweaks and the things he was doing and adding the no and the McClunk, like, what the hell is that stuff? Like, why? And so, a hot take. I think it would have gone, and then the backlash would have been even worse because it would have been George Lucas. It would have been like after the sequels all over again. And I don't think he could have survived that, like physically and mentally. I think it would have killed him if he had to go through all that again. Because think about how people were making documentaries, and Ahmad Best talks about people had to create websites to hate him, and now it's easy, but back then it was really hard. Imagine what the feedback and stuff if it didn't land. I could be completely wrong, and I hope I am. I hope I am completely wrong, but I think it would have fallen even shorter on the it would have been more coherence, but it would have probably not been as good.
That's a bomb drop, that one. I like that one. So, I sort of agree with Jim. I think burnout, the time was done. And I think I don't know if there was pressure there by Disney either. Maybe Disney would pressure him or other companies would pressure him to make Star Wars films. And maybe he got offers from Warner Brothers as well for the Star Wars franchise or something, and he just took the biggest deal. Do I think he regrets it? I do. I think he does regret it. But at the same time, I think with the amount of checks and restrictions he'd have been under now filming, at the same time, I think he was sort of glad, he's ready to hand over the reins. But yeah, I pretty much agree with what you're saying there, Jimmy.
I think in the beginning, in the original trilogy era, George was incredibly precious about Star Wars. It was something that was really, really, really deeply important to him as a creative, as a writer, as an innovator of all of these things that we've discussed. And I think by time we reached what would have been his sequel era, I don't think it meant as much to him anymore. And I don't think I mean that like as in George hated it or he didn't love it anymore. It just wasn't a part of his life. It wasn't a part of his thoughts. It wasn't a part of his considerations. He did the original trilogy. He did the prequels. Here is a studio that has the money, the budget, the time, the resources, the influence to keep that Star Wars legacy going. So why not pass it into the hands of people who can take it further? And it's been 10 years since The Force Awakens, however long, nearly 10 years since The Force Awakens came out.
Unreal.
I went to an event. Unreal. I went to an event at the weekend and I had multiple kids coming up to me and telling me how much they love Rey and how much they love Star Wars and their parents explaining to me how important these films are to their kids and how amazing. And I've met so many kids who are named Rey and Finn, and it has because there are kids that are named Leia, there are kids that are named Padme who are adults now. Like it, I'm sure, Jimmy, you've taught some of them.
Well, I just found out on Friday that there's a set of twins running around Mays High School that are Luke and Leia, and I'm like, I've got to find these people.
Exactly. So if that was able to have that impact, surely George could only ever be happy that that's what it moved on to. And I know the sequels are incredibly divisive, and the merger and the buying of Star Wars was incredible. I was shocked and horrified. And obviously, like the Galactic Star Cruiser thing hotel didn't work, but Galaxy's Edge is incredible. So I don't know. I don't think it affects his legacy. I think it only strengthens it, really, if we're talking about it from that perspective.
Yeah.
I know. Oh man. Everyone take a really, really big breath. We are reaching the end of our hyperspace journey through the journey of George Lucas. Here are just a few final questions. And listeners, we would really, really like to hear your responses to these ones as well. Is George Lucas underrated as a director, but overrated as a writer? Ooh.
Oof. Jeez, Charlie.
Interesting one.
Underrated as a director. I'm
gonna say.
Oh,
I don't know, Jimmy. Go on.
I think. I mean, I don't know a whole lot of people who think he's a great writer. As far as, yes, I'll just say yes, because I think he doesn't get enough credit for what he did do in Star Wars. Because I know he fought and fought and fought for things to be the way they were, but the writing. Yeah. So yes, I'm just gonna say yes. I don't know what else is like. Yeah.
I'm gonna just have to back what Jimmy's saying because I honestly have no answer to this.
Oh my goodness, the two of you are terrible. You do realize that Star Wars, the concept of Star Wars, everything from Jedi to lightsabers to planet names to creature names to you, at the beginning, George conjured all of that out of his brain. You cannot tell me that man is a bad writer. Yes, he doesn't always
He
write
has
the
an
best
active
dialogue.
imagination.
So do I.
Yeah, we all do. How many of you have constructed that overactive imagination into something that is cohesive and can be turned into a story? That is an entire
This
universe. We're
podcast.
talking Tolkien way. We're talking Tolkien level creativity here. That kind of mind expand, like that ability to think on all of those levels as a creative. Yeah, his dialogue's a bit janky and a bit weird during the prequel era. So what? It is in A New Hope. Like, maybe he's not the best at dialogue, but to conceptualize and consider these ideas, I think I'm overrating George Lucas as a writer. Maybe that's what I do. Maybe I'm the guilty party here.
I mean, no, I don't think so. I mean, I just see it differently. I see like that creative side of things, but then I see how he brought it all together. That's where I think he falls short as a writer, right? Like he has all these ideas, but I think that's where he falls short, is bringing the original part's great, and then he starts to try to expand on it. He's not Tolkien. He's not Brandon Sanderson. He's not, so that's yeah.
Fair.
But yeah, I get why you're saying that, Charlie. Like, I really didn't think about it that way though, because but he also was like ripping that stuff off from all these different places and things, like, I mean, super intelligent, all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. That's why I say overrated as a writer, but I really do understand where you're coming from with like his creativity and the whole concept of Star Wars. Like, yeah, you would never be able to take that away from him. And I guess I don't see that as the writing side of it. I see that as the creative side of it. Does that make sense? The difference in my head?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Maybe I just can't separate them the way you do. I don't know.
No, I think it depends what you want to define as, like, what you want to define as writing, whether it's writing the actual script. I don't mean that rudely, genuinely. Just
no. I get it. And I think that's just where, like, because when you said all that, I was like, oh crap, like, yeah, that's right. But I think when you say writer, I think script, not beautiful mythology. So
Yeah, like there are pages and pages and pages and pages of notes about the pathology of Star Wars. Like a lot of it is just like scraps of paper, scribbles on like corners and doodles and notes and notebooks, and to compile all of that. See, I would flip this. I would say that he's overrated as a director, and I would say that he's underrated as a writer.
I'm sticking with the easy answer of just yes.
All right, the easy answer just yes. Well done. I think I've worked our brains a bit too hard, haven't I? So my last question is, if Star Wars never existed, would George Lucas still be remembered as influential?
No.
No,
Oh.
because I don't know. He wouldn't have gotten as much credit because he didn't direct Indiana Jones. Also, I don't think
Yeah.
he'd be who he. I mean, he wouldn't be George Lucas without Star
Yeah.
Wars.
Yeah,
No.
100%. Yeah.
I don't think that American Graffiti 2 and is really going to get it done. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can separate the two though. Like George
Yeah.
Lucas and Star Wars is one thing, and without
Mhm.
either one of them, neither one of them exists. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
what he made him, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
he is
Ooh.
what he made me.
Yes.
Gotta ask. We've got to get this question as well because it is a banger. But what is his single most important contribution to cinema?
my
That is an
God.
absolute banger of a question. We've got to finish on that one. So, what is his single most important
Oh.
contribution to cinema? Now, the easy answer for me would be ILM.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah,
But for
that
me,
was also my
I'd
instinct.
change the word cinema to world, and I'd put hope with exactly what Jimmy said with the history lesson. Mic drop.
Stop! That makes me want to be all weepy. That's so lovely.
So that's what we're going with. Is that what we're all agreeing with? We're going to finish on a banger like that.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Awesome.
Sounds
Right.
good.
Fans, listeners, viewers, people around the Star Wars universe, let us know what you think George Lucas's most important contribution to cinema
Mhm.
is. Also, help us answer, is George Lucas underrated as a director or overrated as a writer? And last but not least, if you have any questions or just want your voice heard, then DM us on our socials or send us an email or voice note at exploretheforce@gmail.com. And remember to like this episode, share it with your Star Wars friends and family, and to follow us on all our social media platforms. All you got to do is search Explore the Force. And if you watch on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and head over to exploretheforce.com.
Also, if you want to show your support and spread the word around by image as well as voice, then head on over to Redbubble and search Explore the Force, where you can purchase unique merchandise. And a massive thank you to everybody interacting with us via our social media. Huge thank you to the Brandalorian, who these two guys up here joined him on his live show earlier. This is the kind of community that we love to see and be a part of. All of you, every single one of you, keep this podcast amazing.
Finally, you've been listening or watching Explore the Force. We have spoken. McClunky.